What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
MythBusters, the show where science is entertaining, a show that I fell in love with back when I had DirecTV. It was on the Discovery Channel. Later, fell back in love with it. It was on Netflix for a bit, like around 2008, 2009. I remember binging it a lot around then. And then now on Hulu, I don't know if it has, I'm pretty sure it doesn't have the full catalog, but it had all of the later seasons, which I hadn't seen, because eventually the show ended. It ended in 2016, or at least the main version of the show with the OG hosts, which is Adam Savage and Jamie Heineman, who were the two that first started the show. So first season and the last season, it was just those two doing all of the myths. From season 2 on, Jamie Heineman brought in some of his employees from his workshop, Carrie Bryant, Tori Belleci, and Grant Imahara, brought them in to help do other myths. So that way, the OG, Adam and Jamie, they can do a particular myth, and then throughout the episode, it would cut to the build team as they tackle other myths. And just a group of people that I really enjoy watching. It's, you have Jamie Heineman, who's your stoic nerd, doesn't speak much, doesn't show a lot of emotion, tends to get red in the face a lot because of his inability to act. And then Adam Savage, who, if you would like to know more about Adam Savage, I would highly recommend checking out his episode on the Tim Ferriss Show. It was a very good discussion about the background of Adam Savage and where he came from, getting into theater, and then from theater, getting into building things, and kind of how his career took off from those passions. But Adam Savage, more of a character, more outgoing, more of the energetic kind of excitement. And also loose cannon, maybe flies by the seat of his pants a bit. Very similar to Tori Belleci, who, probably got a lot of brain damage doing the show. But overall, it's a show that, it's one of those brain food shows that I enjoy, where I'm learning things, but it's also entertaining. And also the things that I'm learning about are just so many just common everyday things. Like people, like, just there's so much of our reality. People don't know what they don't know, right? I don't know what I don't know. And like, there's so much of this world where we're just operating on an assumption or something that somebody told us a long time ago, misinformation. And this is a show that, kind of clarifies a lot of things. Are those things possible? Is this a real thing? And, it was kind of an interesting evolution for the show, where it started off, the show started in 2003 and ended in 2016 for the OG crew. The show did get rebooted with new hosts, which I tried to watch an episode. They definitely, budget was scaled way back, you could tell. But it's the two hosts. The energetic host is an Asian dude, which, I thought it was, fine, diversity. But then the other guy is like a Jamie Heineman type, even speaks, his voice sounds like Jamie Heineman a bit. But he has a little bit more charisma, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work as well as just Jamie Heineman, the quiet, stoic, straight man, and then Adam Savage kind of bouncing off the walls. Like having two people like really bouncing off the walls, and I don't know. I'd rather go back, and I probably will, go back and rewatch old MythBuster episodes than try and follow the new one. But then there was also spin-off shows. There was like MythBusters Kids. Then there was the White Rabbit Experiment, where the build crew did a season of basically MythBusters for Netflix, which I kind of want to... remember watching it and enjoying it, but I don't know if I necessarily enjoyed it as much as the actual MythBusters show. It was also fun seeing the evolution of the production of the show, how just camera technology grew, like GoPros and high-speed cameras and digital filming, and just all the technology that kind of grew with the show. And then also how they got their myths. I mean, starting out with just basic myths and old wives' tales to the internet being able to help feed them with ideas. They had a Reddit episode, the very last season they did, where they scaled back to just Adam Savage and Jamie Hyneman as the hosts, where they would do basically 2 myths, and then they would cut between the 2 myths throughout the show instead of having the build team, which I prefer the build team because just watching them do 2 myths and going back and forth, it's just like, why don't you just show us, we just have half the episode. Let me just see this first myth to completion and then go to the other myth. It's just, it didn't make as much sense, but each episode was specific to a popular aspect of the show, whether it be explosions, whether it be car crashes, cooking, or volunteers that they use, or failures, or using rockets. Like each episode featured a different aspect of the show that was a very big portion. There was a special episode, the duct tape episode, where they made a trebuchet out of duct tape. It's just, it combines like science, but also like building stuff, which is really cool. There was a show back in like 2001-ish, 2000 on Discovery Channel called Junkyard Wars, which I loved. It was a competition show based in the UK where there were 3 teams, and each team was comprised of different people who had skills like welding or engineering and fabrication and different kind of working, and they had to build certain types of machines using scraps that were in a junkyard. So you'd get like that sign, and then they would have to compete with their machines. It was one of the most fun shows. That show they tried to reboot as well. But that show was just so much fun because it's just fun to watch people build stuff out of nothing and then to see it work and to see the all the math and science that goes into kind of calculating and figuring out everything and how it would work. So when that show ended, it's kind of crazy, kind of passed the torch in a lot of ways to MythBusters, where they weren't necessarily competing. Sometimes they did. Sometimes Adam and Jamie would compete. They would both build their version of, like they did a floating bicycle, and they both built their versions of this floating bicycle, and then they competed. There's a few other, or probably many others where they competed on building stuff. So you kind of I got that it's kind of scratched that itch for me. But also just seeing people build and fabricate stuff, it was a lot of fun. And, just mistakes, the funny mistakes that happen, a lot of explosions. I mean, it's just a lot of fun things. Like seeing how the reality of these things that we have in our brain and how they translate into real life. It's interesting to see how wrong we are sometimes and how right we are at other times. But yeah, just it's one of those shows, that I'm glad it went. Here's the thing that I love about this show that it was able to do at the time and place it was around, that they were asked by President Obama to go to the White House and film a segment there. And it's like, it's a time in our history of this country where we had a president that was like, one, very low drama, right? Took us out of a recession from the Bush administration, did so many great things, was like champion trying to give the people of this country better things, doing all the efforts, but also caring so much about science and bringing on these 2 people who shepherd science into the homes of so many people, bring them in, and like it's amazing that we lived not that long ago. We lived in a time where we like had a president that was so respectable and like somebody that loved education, and it's sorely missed these days. But I love MythBusters. New episodes of this show come out daily. Subscribe everywhere. Buy my artwork over at InspiredDisorder.com and save 25% with coupon code RTS. At Ray Taylor for me. Have a great day. Peace out.